PharmaVentures, experts in deals and alliances.
Welcome to PharmaVentures InSights at ISCT 2017 in London. Cell therapy. Since its beginning 30 years ago, one can say that the progress has been slow if you look at the number of approved products by the FDA, for example. But has it really been that slow? Now, to answer that question today, I have Miguel Forte, Chief Commercial Officer of ISCT, here with me. Welcome.
Thank you. Welcome.
So, Miguel, we've just talked about the progress of cell therapy. Has it really been slow?
I think we look at it and we feel it has been slow, but I think it has been definitely faster than we believed in the beginning. I think it's the kind of perception. We see the opportunity building up. We see the value that it can deliver to patients. We would like to see that materializing faster. Nevertheless, it is happening. It is happening slow, but it's happening steadily. And I think that over the last 7 years, where I've been involved with cell therapy, I've seen a huge difference. We're seeing clinical data, we're seeing ability to manufacture, we're seeing discussions on reimbursement, we're seeing patients benefiting. So the progress appears slow, but in fact, it is faster than we believe.
So Miguel, you've previously worked for biotech companies, large pharmaceutical companies in many different indications and product types, therapeutic types. What's the key difference, would you say, between cell therapy and the traditional pharmaceuticals? Is cell therapy really special and unique compared with traditional pharmaceuticals?
Cell therapy is different. In the end, all treatments affect the cell. The biggest difference is that instead of affecting the cell indirectly, we tend to use the cell itself to achieve a therapeutic effect. I tend to say when I lecture, when I teach, that small molecules is kind of unidirectional, biological is like bidirectional, and cell therapy is three-dimensional. Why is it more complex? It's because you have a lot more to characterize and you'll have a lot more to harness, but you will have a lot more value once you've achieved that in terms of therapeutic benefit that you deliver to patients.
So being director of cell therapy company, being the chief commercial officer of ISCT, and with all your other involvements, do you get involved in conversations about rethinking the traditional diagnostic and clinical pathway to accommodate for these living therapeutics, the cell therapies?
I do get involved on a lot of those discussions, not only on my daily job, but also on my daily responsibilities with ISCT. You may be aware that I chair the Commercialization Committee. The Commercialization Committee is a forum where academics, suppliers, and industry developers get together to discuss the full chain of value from target identification to delivery to the patients. And there's a lot of discussions, a lot of things that we need to bring from previous experience for other fields and kind of compile it into developing those products. So we get fascinated with the developments, we get fascinated with the value. I mean, we're going to see this year CAR T being approved, and that is delivering unthinkable value before to those patients. But to get there was a need to understand the effect. There was a need to understand the safety and manage the safety profile. There was definitely a need to manufacture it and deal with the autologous versus the allogenic versus all those challenges of bringing value. And we're going to see now how that commercialization is effective by really getting the physicians to adopt it, the patients to understand what is the treatment and actually kind of buy in, I would say, and the regulators and the payers to actually monitor it. I tend also to say that it is critical, one thing, and we discussed that at the Commercialization Committee, we need to do everything with the end in mind. In other words, the patients. And if we adapt to the market will adopt us. And I think that's a critical thing to make sure that what we deliver is in line with patients' expectations.
Speaking of commercialization, Miguel, it's probably not an understatement to say that a lot of the drugs going on market these days come from collaboration between biotechs and pharmas and other companies, universities, institutes. Do you see much deal activity within the cell therapy space as you did when you were in large pharma?
That's a very interesting question. I think the first point that I would make away from your question is that there's a lot of collaboration. This is something that we need to achieve together because we need a lot of different expertises. I think the first one, and it's actually the core of the commercialization committee, is the collaboration between academia and industry. We purposely, I think that's one of the spirits, a personality of the society, to combine academics as members and corporate industry as members as well, and bringing those two together. So that is definitely one thing that is key in terms of collaboration. We're also seeing another thing, which is large pharma with deep pockets, understanding that this wave of new therapies is bringing so much value and needs to harness. So they are selecting here and there, and we've seen that on the CAR-T, we've seen that on some regenerative approaches. So pharma is stepping in. I think pharma and some of the traditional biotechs are looking at these opportunities, still wondering what are the risks and what are the things that need to be sorted. I don't think they're worried about the clinical risk in terms of showing efficacy, but they certainly want to be reassured about the manufacturing, and there's still a big discussion about the reimbursement. But nevertheless, they're starting to be interested, they're starting to step in, and they're starting to have deals. And that has changed drastically over the last few years, and I think the turning point was to start to see clinical data showing the value. Once there is that clinical data, then everybody says, yes, we have a product, we have an opportunity, just let's optimize it so that the value is brought to the patients.
So for companies, biotech companies developing gene and cell therapy for particular indications, let's say hemophilia B, where there are already products in the market, for example CSL Behring and Biogen have products against hemophilia B. What's these companies' positioning in the ecosystem? Do they think about combinational therapy with existing drugs, or will they take over these existing therapies?
There's 2 points to your question. One is to take over a new therapy, another one is combination therapy, and both is happening. I think pharma, or really anyone developing a product, always needs to understand what's the next opportunity, what's the next therapeutic innovation that is going to change the field. And hemophilia, definitely gene therapy, is really going to change the field. So companies that have an interest in that area, that have expertise, that have network in that area, are definitely looking at the new opportunities to bring them in. So that's one side of your question. The other side of your question is some of these therapies, most therapies, if we go back even to the antibiotic, the TB, you end up optimizing your effect by combining therapies. Biology is very redundant. The human body and disease is very redundant. So you get a bigger advantage if you tackle it from multiple angles. So combination therapy will be part of cell therapy. The difference is that we're combining cell therapy with, say, monoclonals, and we're seeing that happening in the oncology field, where we have PD-1 inhibitors together with CAR-T being considered. So that other side, which will involve different partners coming together for a development, is also happening. Both of those are a recognition that this therapy is becoming part of the traditional portfolio. And that is the revolution. That is the thing that ISCT today here and over the next 3 days will bring over 1,500 people together to discuss this revolution of cell therapy, the value that is bringing, and the fact that it's becoming more and more part of the traditional portfolio of therapies. And so there will be replacement and there will be co-therapies, and that will all of it, again, bring value to all the key stakeholders and above all the patients.
I'm going to ask one more question lastly about the business model between traditional pharma or traditional pharmaceutical developing biotech companies versus cell therapy, because supply chain, logistics, type of therapy, sort of stakeholders within the market that you need to address can be quite different. So do you see any business model differences between the two types?
For me, the word business model is key because it brings together all the different aspects. And you are right, the aspects are slightly different. That's why cell therapy has some peculiarities. Any company, whatever the stage, needs to consider the business model all the way through. In other words, when you get a target, you really need to think how that target is going to be developed, how that target is going to be approved, how that target is going to get to the patients. And so your business model really needs to consider, how am I bringing funds in? That's the first part. And we're seeing a lot of interest on the investors and also partnerships bringing the money in. So that's the first part of the business model. The second part of the business model is the really important one where you develop your product. You must really consider, how am I going to improve my manufacturing to reduce my cost of goods, to optimize my ability to characterize the product for tech transfer, for setting up new manufacturing sites, which brings the discussion about the strategic view about your manufacturing decisions, which is a key element for the success of your business model. And along that, you're also going to see how it stays into the market. How is it going to displace competition or collaborate with competition by co-therapies, let's say. All of that needs to be integrated. And a successful company is the one that anticipates all those aspects: target, development, supply chain, cost of goods, generation of evidence, market access, launch, patient and physician perception, integrates all that into a viable business model. If they don't, they will go out. And we're seeing, and that's the beauty of the market, we're starting to see a lot of happening, some of them not succeeding. It's a bit of a Darwinian world, and we will see the success for the ones that will bring value and they've done a proper business model, integrating all those elements, and the other one that for one reason or another, sometimes for clinical data, other times because they didn't really harness the manufacturing supply chain, not being successful.
Miguel, we had a very key message today that when you actually look inside carefully, the researchers, the agencies, the business people, the people like yourselves, companies, they've really been contributing and working hard to progress the cell therapy market, and we hope to see some great fruitions from that sometime soon.
Thank you, and I think that you can see a lot of that happening and being discussed at the meeting, the annual meeting here. So I welcome you to the meeting, and I would be delighted for you to really experience the lot of value that we're bringing to patients with cell therapy products.
Thank you, Miguel.
Thank you.
For more information about PharmaVentures, visit our website